everybody, it's Emily at ARC Schooling, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So I have no idea where this tag started. I'm sure there's an original tag. I wish I knew who it was. If I can find it, I will try to tag them. But I've been doing this tag, I think, every year that I've been on YouTube, and it's one of my favorite ways to kind of like reflect on how my year is going and how my reading is going. So I always like to start with stats. So as of right now, we are in like almost the end of June, and I have read 71 books, and my goal is to read 100. That's just my general like goal every year. So I'm pretty close to hitting that. I'm probably going to go over it again. For the challenges that I'm doing, I'm currently doing the Build Your Library Reading Challenge, which has 40 prompts, and I have completed 28 of them, and I'm like in process of completing a couple more. So like once I finish some of those books, I'll have hit a few more. So I'll probably be around 30 by the end of the month. I'm also doing the Alphabet Challenge, which was sort of a whim. I did it last year. Didn't plan on doing it this year, and then I had an extra page in my bullet journal, so I'm doing it. And I have completed 19 of the letters, and I'm stuck with the same ones that I was stuck with last year, so I don't know what to do about that. I'll figure it out. So I have E that I need to fit a book for, which I should be able to do. I have several. But I also have J, which I have very few J books. O, Q is the one that for some reason I can never figure out a book. V, Y, and the dreaded letter Z. I don't know what to do about Z. I don't own a book that starts with Z, so I'm gonna have to figure this out. And then my goal, again, as always, is to read the books that I own, read my shelves. And of the 71 books I've read this year, 29 of them were specifically books that I was like, I need to read this because I already own it. So not great, but not bad. Okay, so now let's go ahead and we're gonna get into the actual questions of this tag. Number one is, what is the best book you've read in 2023 so far? So I was looking at what I've read so far this year, what my 5 stars were, and these 2 books are the ones that I feel like stick out the most to me, and I cannot decide which one is my favorite. So I'm going to talk about both of them. I have For Lamb by Lisa Klein Ransom, and I have Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. And I love both of these so much. Very different, but both about like generational trauma and trauma specifically, but also just they're both so good. This one is set in 1940s Mississippi, and you're following a black family, and specifically Lamb and her mother and brother. And it has to do with lynching, and specifically women who were lynched, and like kind of giving them a voice. And this book is about a house with chicken legs that was an inheritance to this brother and sister, and like why the house on chicken legs exists, and it's all like revolving around the story of the house. And it's I don't even begin to know how to explain this book to people besides just saying that it's beautifully written. Like the language, the way the author writes is just gorgeous, and the story is bizarre but also really emotional. And this book just like I can't even stop saying how much I loved it, and it's beautiful, and everyone should read it. This question is, what is the best sequel you've read this year? And I've only read one sequel. So the only sequel I've read is Immortality, A Love Story, which is the sequel to Anatomy, A Love Story. And I can't say it's the best. It's a sequel. I loved this. This was okay. I wish it was as good as this, but it wasn't. It's fine. It is what it is. But this is a story about a girl living in like turn of the century, late 1800s Scotland, and she wants to be a surgeon, and it's got some like weird like fantasy elements to it with immortality and that sort of thing. And it's really interesting. Like, this book was great. Very gory gothic vibes. This one was a little more romance heavy, and while there were some interesting elements that I enjoyed, it didn't have the same vibes. I wanted this more than this. Okay, question 4 is, what are some new releases that you haven't read yet but you're excited to? So, I have a couple. Like, I have a lot. I have so many, but if I'm narrowing it down, the ones that I'm probably the most likely to actually get to this year, I have The Woman with the Cure. This is by Lynn Cullen, and it is about the polio vaccine in the 1940s and 50s, I think, or the 1950s, and the woman who helped create it, and it just sounds like a really good book, and I feel like it fits really well with the Build Your Library Reading Challenge. I think this is going to hit 2 prompts for me. Then I have One Girl in All the World by Kendare Blake. This is the sequel to In Every Generation. It's like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer continuing story. And so you're like modern day-ish. I don't think it's actually like right now. It's like 10 years ago or something like that, I think. And you're following Willow's daughter, who is now a Slayer, and I loved the first book so much. And I'll say it again, I feel like this could be made today, and you could keep the same cast, and it would work. And I really want that to happen. Like, bring back Allison Hannigan, bring back Seth Green, bring back James Marsters, make it happen, please. Then the book that I swear to God is like, I need to read this because it's just staring me down on my shelves, and I need to know what this is. And that's Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I feel like this is everywhere. I can't go on social media without seeing somebody raving about this book. I keep moving it around the house because I'm like trying to figure out where to put this on my shelves, and it's just like, read me. So I am probably going to get to this sooner than later. The newest Lisa C. This is Lady Tan's Circle of Women. I think again this has to do with a woman scientist, but we're in like 15th century China, I think. And that's what, like, Lisa C. I really enjoy her writing and her books. They're always really gripping and really interesting, and also medieval China and a woman in medicine. So it just sounds like it's going to be a good time. Number 4 is, what are some most anticipated releases for the second half of the year? Let me pull up my pre-orders because I have a lot. First up, I have the newest from Waka T. Brown, The Very Unfortunate Wish of Melody Yoshimura. And I think this is supposed to be like Coraline-ish, which I'm so intrigued. I love her books. The first 2 that she's written have been more like realistic. Like, one was a memoir and the other one was more realistic, like contemporary fiction. So the fact that this is like a fantasy-esque kind of story, and it's based on a retelling of a Japanese folk tale, like about a girl who befriends a demon and things go badly. And I just think that's a great setup, and it's middle grade. Then in August, I have The Bewitching Hour, and that's by Ashley Poston. And I've never read anything by Ashley Poston, but I'm so intrigued by this because this is a Tara prequel from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I'm dying to read it because Tara's backstory is one that I've always found really interesting, and I wished they could have delved more into. So I'm excited that we're going to get a book based on that. And then also in August, Sadie Hartman's book, which I'm so excited about. It's called 101 Books to Read Before You're Murdered. And I always want to know what horror books I should pick up, and so I'm gonna let Sadie tell me what to read. Then, hold on, what else? Oh, then in October, I'm excited because we're getting the Watership Down graphic novel. And this is something that I've kind of wished existed for years now, and now that it's happening, I can't wait. I need it to be amazing. I'm so excited. And also, I think it's like the end of October, maybe beginning of November, we're getting the Eddie Munson backstory from Stranger Things, and it's called Flight of Icarus. And again, don't know, I've never read like a Stranger Things novel. I'm very curious. It's an Eddie Munson backstory. Like, I need it. And the cover, just like, oh, I'm so excited about it. So, like, there's so many things coming out, though. That's just a few. I have so many things I'm excited about. Will I get to read them when they come out? Who knows. I certainly hope so. Next question is, what book was the biggest surprise? And I was like, I left this one blank as I was thinking about it, but then I finished this book last night and decided I'm gonna go with that. And that's Self-Made Boys by Anna Marie McLemore. And this is a Great Gatsby remix. I've been really enjoying this remix series. I've only read a couple of them, but they've been really fun. So I thought this was super good. I did not expect to love it as much as I did, just because the only Gatsby retelling that I've loved so far was Gillian Cantor's, which was one of my favorite books of the year last year. Beautiful Little Fools. And it was just the perfect retelling, I thought, and I didn't think anything would match that. So I picked this up because I was super intrigued by the premise, which is that both Nick Caravaggio and Jay Gatsby are both trans men in this, and like almost all the characters are queer in some way, and so I wanted to know like how this was gonna work out, and it surprised me in so many ways, and it was so much better than I kind of thought it was gonna be. I expected fluff and got something really, really like interesting and just beautiful. This book was more than I expected it to be, and I am gonna have to buy myself a copy. This is the library book I need to take back, but like, I might need this on my shelves. But now let's talk about my biggest disappointment, which was Nothing Sung and Nothing Spoken by Nita Tyndale. And this just was not what I wanted it to be. Like, I was so excited about it. This is a World War II story. This is a book about queer girls in World War II. And like, I wanted to know what that experience was like. I wanted to read about that. And it just didn't really hit the notes that I wanted it to hit. This felt very kind of superficial. It felt very much just like, I don't know, very surface level. I wanted it to dig in deeper. I wanted to, like, there was a few moments where I was like, oop, and then nothing. So this just didn't work for me. Maybe it would work for somebody else. I don't know. But I just felt this could have been so much better. Next question is, who is my new favorite author, a new to you favorite author? I think I'm going to go ahead and say Jenna Rose Nethercott, because I will read anything she writes. I'm very excited to see what she comes out with next. Just the writing in this was gorgeous, and I think I read too that she's a poet, so like you could feel the poetry in her writing, if that makes sense. And so like I want to read anything else she puts out. The next question is, what is a book that made you cry? And I have two. The first one is Looking for Jane by Heather Marshall. This is a book about reproductive rights, and you're following like 3 different women at different periods in time, but their stories are all connected. And it was a lot. I cried a few times. There are a few moments in that book that just really, like, I had to stop and set the book aside. Actually, at one point I was washing dishes and listening to the audiobook, and I had to like take a minute because I started crying in the sink. It was a lot. It was just beautiful though. I highly recommend it. Like, it was really, really good. But just be ready to like need tissues. And also Thistlefoot, but like specifically one chapter. And if you've read this, you know what I'm talking about. But that one chapter like kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, you know it's coming. Like, the story's building up to this thing. And then it happens and you're just like, whoa. And crying. And then, what is a book that made you happy? Let's talk about the opposite. And for me, that's going to be Daisy Jones and the Six. This is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'd had this on my shelf for a while, and then I saw that they were coming out with the adaptation, and I wanted to see that. So I was like, well, first, I have to read the book. So I listened to this as an audiobook because it's written in like interview style. Like, the whole book reads just like you're watching VH1 Behind the Music. So like, I wanted to have the audio, and it was so good. Like, this book, I loved it. It had everything I could possibly want in a story. It was great. And then the adaptation was super good too. So I have the songs that I listen to on a regular basis, like from the show, because they're so good. The next question is, what are the most beautiful books you have ordered or received this year? And I have 2. that I got this year that I think are just both, like, there's been a lot. Like, there have been so many books that I bought this year that are just gorgeous. But I feel like if I have to, like, narrow it down, I'll go with these two. And the first one is Wayward by Amelia Hart. I think you guys knew that I was gonna pick this up, because this is probably the most beautiful book this year overall. Like, it's stunning. Like, just take it in. It's beautiful. There's so much going on this cover, but it's so pretty. And then I have The Matchmaker's Gift, and this is by Linda Cohen Loigman, and I don't think this came out this year. This is like last year. Yeah, this came out in 2022, so not a new release, but it's so pretty. And like, there are so many fun little things. Like, there's a jar of pickles. So like, that's how you know it's a Jewish book. There's a jar of pickles on it. So that's just a really, really pretty cover too. So the last question is, what do you still need to read by the end of the year? And the answer is everything. Like, there are so many things. Like, I want to read all the things. But if I have to narrow, I'm just going to do this quickly. The Woman with the Cure by Lynn Cullen. One Girl in All the World by Kendare Blake. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Lady Tan's Circle of Women by Lisa See. A Land of Permanent Goodbyes by Atia Abawi, because somebody told me this is written very similar to The Book Thief, and I need to know. I need to read it. I have The Windaby Puzzle by Lois Lowry. A Sky Full of Song by Susan Lynn Meyer. When the Angels Left the Old Country by Sasha Lamb. This is like Good Omens, but make it Jewish. Warrior Girl Unearthed. This is the newest by Angeline Booley, which is just, it sounds great. Ugh, so many things. Why are there always so many books that I need to read, like, right this minute? Will I get to them all? I hope so. Okay, so that's it for this tag. If you want to do this tag yourself, go for it. Let me know in the comments. Tell me, what is the best book you've read so far in 2023? I want to know your absolute, like, favorite book that you read this year. I'm gonna probably end up adding it to my TBR if I haven't gotten to it yet. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.